Hi everybody, it's Ryan Monroe. The project that I did for Learning and Cognition is the impact of well-being on student academic achievement and kind of identifying what the link looks like between the two. And as you can see, kind of with the overview of the presentation, what the scenario was that the president here at Western Technical College contacted me as a wellness manager to look at the impact that well-being has on academic achievement and identify the link and to be able to present that information to senior leadership team and really make the case for why they should provide more resources to emphasize student health and well-being. And so I presented this information at a senior leadership team meeting for a larger plan for the organization-wide initiative. And so that kind of sets the background of what this presentation is for, the handouts, and everything that really went into it. And we'll talk a little bit further about that. Just to start giving an introduction, and from Baldwin 2017 noted that as the cost of higher education continues to rise, identifying factors that assist in student success and retention plays a vital role in the overall success of a given college or research university. So those are the two focuses that we have that really set the foundation for the impact of health and well-being on student success and retention. As part of the presentation, you'll see here we developed and handed out agendas that each senior leadership team had, identifying the purpose, the presentation logistics, but then also the agenda for the presentation that we had. So again, it's all about identifying the impact that well-being has on academic achievement, but also to develop a plan for improving student well-being here at Western. But it's important to first start on identifying what wellness is, and the World Health Organization defines it as a complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely just the absence of disease or infirmity. And it's important to understand with wellness that there's various dimensions that play into it. So it's not all about physical activity, nutrition, sleep, things like that. There's a lot of different dimensions that play into it that need to take into consideration to help reduce stress, anxiety, things like that, but then also have that physical well-being piece as well. One of the major literature pieces that we looked at is why schools should promote students' health and well-being by Bonnell et al. In 2014. They found that personal, social, and health education is a subject that oftentimes get cut to focus more so on academic subjects, the STEM type programs, things that they are much more focused on. But yet research suggests that education and health are synergistic. Those that are well educated are healthier. Those that are healthier also tend to achieve higher in academic standards. Where they ended off with and noted that although it is important from an economic standpoint to look at the overall piece of cognitive skills gained from academic learning, it's also important when looking at the non-cognitive skills such as resiliency, team working skills, but then also when you look at productivity standpoints on how that increases when workers' health improves as well. So it's again, understanding the big picture when it comes to the overall student is critical. One of the activities that we have during the presentation is that I brought in a bucket of water, and each senior leadership team member got a little piece of a brick and a little piece of a sponge. And that bucket of water represented the classroom and learning that and teaching that is being presented to them, and that student's ability to retain that information. So when you dip in that sponge into the bucket of water versus the brick, which one is going to be able to retain that information better? And so when you pull out that sponge, that's going to be soaked with that information. It's going to retain that information versus that brick is not going to retain that information as well. So again, gives that visual representation of what that we need to, although we might have the best teaching practices that we have, we still need to make sure that we can emphasize and incorporate the most appropriate strategies that and incorporating the student piece and the well-being piece so that they can be more like sponges versus a brick. But in education, a lot of times we're misaligned focus that we don't necessarily focus on the basic needs and psychological needs of the students. We more so look at the very top of the pyramid according to Maslow's hierarchy, and that we look at the self-fulfillment needs. So as you can see here, we kind of build it upside down here, and that we focus solely on the STEM projects, and that we reduce the ones that are based on the basic needs, the psychological needs, and go right for the top of the pyramid. But we have to build our pyramids from the top down, because if we don't, our pyramids will tumble. And that's what we see in our college students today. In 2019, the National College Health Assessment noted that the top 4 academic impacts that factor individual academic performance were all health and well-being related. Those being stress, anxiety, sleep difficulties, depression, things like that, that all are the top 4 that affect academic impacts. What they also found is that with nutrition, physical activity, and weight, many of the students are not meeting the recommendations for key health and well-being aspects such as physical activity, fruit and vegetable intake, but then also our overweight and obesity categories are significantly higher where they should be. What's more, when we look at the mental health piece, students reported feeling 87.4% felt overwhelmed in the last 12 months, 84.7% felt exhausted and not from physical activity, 70.8% felt very sad, and the list just continues to go on from a mental health standpoint and the impact that our college students are facing, okay, and the need for health and well-being. When you look at reported learning disabilities, 10.1% noted that psychiatric disorder was the highest learning disability that was contributed to their academics, which is highest of all of the learning disabilities. So when we look at the research, it's important to understand that the research is overwhelming when it comes to the impact that it has on health and well-being, not only from a student standpoint, but also from a standpoint of faculty and staff well-being. Okay, faculty and staff well-being improves overall teacher effectiveness, which ultimately leads to student academic achievement and enhanced student academic achievement. Okay? There is no comprehensive wellness programming that focuses on various dimensions of wellness, so one of the things that we need to do is start to collaborate to develop that. For more information on the specific research, and I went through and we had a whole bunch of different research that was noted in the presentation that's highlighted in the packet, it's highlighted in the full presentation. So I encourage you to look at that, but really there's a vast array of research that notes the various dimensions of well-being on the academic achievement. So it's important to understand those factors. So as we get into understanding the research to integration and looking at how we can integrate Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's basically building our pyramids. We've got to focus on healthy eating, sleep, weight management, exercise, shelter, mental health programs, building up those safety needs, the belongingness and love, esteem. And when we get to the top, that's when we can really focus on that leadership opportunities, challenging work, and really the classroom lessons, but really making sure that our students are like sponges when they are in the classroom is critically important. What we've devised is a wellness operational pyramid, and we adapted this from Pfeiffer, in that we're going to focus solely at the bottom of the pyramid. Level 1, organizational readiness and support. This is building a culture of health. Okay, aligning with the organization's mission and vision, obtaining leadership support, department collaboration, policies, environmental supports, different incentives, communication, committee, and champion development as well. And as we work up through the years, we'll get into some more highly tailored programs and some of the special programs, increasing capacity, reducing diseases, things like that that we can start to focus on throughout the years. From a timeline standpoint, what you can see, years 1 and 3, we're looking at the bottom of that pyramid, organizational readiness and support, and then that level 2, risk avoidance, well-being, as we get into it. Years 4 and 5, we continue to build on that, but then we start adding in that third tier. And years 6 and plus, we look at all 4 of those dimensions and all 4 of those pyramid levels that are available to the students. But again, just to make note, it is a collaborative effect. So when we look at the middle here, that's student wellness, we've got to have a variety of people that are here on campus to be able to focus on that, to meet the various dimensions of wellness, to improve their health and well-being. With the presentation, we had a full representation and a presentation packet that the students or the senior leadership team was provided. It had the research background and cited several different research articles and kind of what their findings were. So if you want the full history and the full research on that, I want you guys to refer back to that presentation packet. It also has the next steps and the information that was necessary to take the next step. So you can see they're enhancing student health and well-being at WTC and what it really takes and what we need to use from a model standpoint to really integrate that art piece so they can get a visual representation of what it takes to improve the student health and well-being. And lastly, we have an evaluation form. The evaluation form really looks at the topic. So what is the interest from our senior leadership team on the topic of health and well-being and student academic achievement? It's the presenter, so them grading me basically, and then also the presentation. What was the format like? What did they like? What did they not like? This helps me to get that gauge, that information of how interested they are from an evaluation standpoint. Again, here are all the references that you can note, but again, in the packet is when